Welcome to Talking with Creatives. My name is Jennifer Dean, and I'll be utilizing this podcast format to have chats with artists, creatives, and makers, hearing the stories behind their work and exploring what creativity means in everyday life. Today, I'm joined by Warwick Gow. Warwick is a Sunshine Coast based creative whose practice spans photography, art curation, and cultural development. Centering around a DIY ethos that threads through everything he does, Warwick's photographic practice sits at the crossroads of portraiture and documentary storytelling. Leaning deeply into trust, whether he's documenting subcultures or exploring the edges of regional identity, Warwick creates space for people to be seen as themselves, without polish and without performance. Projects like his 2022 Horizon Festival collaboration, Phototropism, his 2023 solo exhibition, An Ode to DIY, and his latest exhibition, Curation, Refuse, also at Noosa Regional Gallery, trace this evolution, revealing his ongoing interest in the beauty of imperfectionism and the stories found in overlooked corners. Beyond his own creative work, Warwick is an arts enabler and creative development at Sunshine Coast Council. And as the co-founder of LANTANA Space, Warwick is actively shaping what a thriving, inclusive regional art scene can look like. His passion for platforms that lift up emerging voices, that celebrate difference and help people from all walks of life and abilities to flourish, means Warwick's work transcends a single genre or ideal. At its core, his focus is community, courage, and the belief that everyone holds something worth seeing, humanity. Thank you for joining me today, Warwick Gow.
Thanks for having me. Exciting to have a chat and nerd out.
Now, look, I would probably classify you as a photographer. How would you classify your work?
Yeah, based in photography, definitely. And across a bunch of different industries and mediums and approaches to that. Last couple of years, largely doing a lot of arts work and dabbling with like production and curation and organizing artists as well, and messing with a bit of installation stuff. But it's all like, I feel like it's all the same soupy mess. Being a photographer, you've got to also be able to organize people. So it's just the same thing.
Okay. And you are often photographed. There's quite a few pictures of yourself in, well, look, let's sort of go backwards a little bit. The style
Yeah.
of your photography, Warwick, there's little remnants there that remind me of people such as Nan Golden, Cindy Sherman, even Andy Warhol, artists who are very well known for photographing both themselves and their friendship circles. Let's talk a little bit about that, your style of photography. I understand you started off in surf photography,
Yeah.
which is a little bit different.
Yeah, growing up on the sunny coast, there's surf and skate culture, and there's pretty solid heavy metal punk scene then as well.
Cool.
So yeah, just running around in those circles and being terrible at surfing and skating, and I can't play music. Yeah, I kind of stole one of Dad's cameras, old dive cameras, and just started taking photos, and then it kind of just didn't stop really. So yeah, very much very personal driven and very much just photographing the stuff I'm heavily involved in at the time. So that's kind of always been the case. Yeah.
So was your dad a photographer?
No, I used to be a dive instructor just up until before I was born. Would take crews of people on sailboats from here up to the reef, and
Yeah.
teach wealthier people how to scuba dive and hang out on their yachts and be a rat bag from what I heard. So he used to take some photo. Like he had a Nikonis V dive camera. They're like a fluoro orange heavy case camera basically, but they're kind of the size of like a normal sort of old film SLR camera.
Yeah.
So he had one of them in the box at home, and I just saw it one day and pinched it and was not using it in the water for a long time until I did and found out it was really difficult.
So when you started photography, how old were you?
I think I was like 15, 16.
Okay.
Like prior to that, like when we went camping and stuff, it's funny, like the things you don't really clock until you get older. But like we go on hot little family holidays around the region here, usually up to Double Island. And mum and dad would always get us like little crappy disposable film cameras just to take photos. And my little brother wasn't that interested, so I'd like end up with two disposable cameras to bash out in a weekend, and then kind of left it alone for a bit. once I got a little bit older, and then yeah, found dad's camera, and then didn't really put it down. Got my first digi just after I graduated, so like yeah, I was maybe about 17.
Yeah.
And then just kept going, and then yeah, spent a lot of time swimming in the water with big heavy camera housings, taking pictures of surfing as well.
Wow. And you had a little bit of momentum with the surf photography too. So you were starting to work with some brands or publications.
Yeah, yeah. So did I don't know if many of them are still alive, which is the case with print media.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of got spurred on a little bit. I got runner up in the Monster Children photo comp probably
Cool.
like 2012 maybe,
Yeah.
with a surf photograph. And that kind of like opened a couple of doors for me that I wasn't aware they'd opened at the time. But definitely like spurred me on with some confidence to keep going with it. And then yeah, started initially worked with a couple of local shapers that had just started a couple of independent surf companies in Moffat Beach. So it was SLS surfboards and MS surfboards. So just was like a barnacle there basically, and didn't leave their little factories and followed their team around shooting them, which ended up getting published in Foam Symmetry magazine. It was kind of when alternative surfing really had its recent little peak along the east coast of Australia. There was
Yeah.
also White Horses magazine, Paper Sea Quarterly, and then did like a big spread and got a couple of images in Pacific Longboarder with John Brayson, which is still running, which is amazing.
Wow. That is
It's just
awesome.
John and his wife in the garage just pumping out this. I think it's a monthly magazine still. But yeah, quite amazing. He's been doing it for a long time, but he kind of had to weather the storm of all these new little upstarts
Mm.
coming into a thing that was just him for a while, and then they've all disappeared and he's still going. So he's obviously doing something right.
That's really cool. Thinking about the work that you do now, the portraiture, and you work with a lot of people on, you describe them, I mean, people on the fringe of society is probably one way. People with different, I just call them party people, happy,
Yeah.
fun people, because they're my kind of people too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
people,
I got to enjoy hanging out with them. Yeah, yeah. I tried shooting weddings and stuff, and I was like, I don't like most of you people, and I'm not good at taking
yeah.
photos when I don't like you. Sorry.
I mean, it's quite different to surf culture, what you're doing now. What sort of spurred the change? You were having some success with the surf photography, which is
Yeah.
quite a niche. And I can't imagine, look, I can't honestly name too many photographers who do that kind of work. Obviously, I'm aware of some on the coast now that I'm living here myself, but it's quite a niche. So you've sort of left one niche for something else that very niche, but it's been grounded in the photography industry, especially under the label of portraiture for quite some time. What led that change in the
Well,
style?
I it just took me a while to work out what I was actually interested in, because I was just running around and jumping on opportunities and just sort of going with the flow. And but yeah, being in a coastal town, that meant surfing. I'm sure if I was
Yeah,
somewhere else, it probably would have been some other strange outdoor sport to begin
yeah,
with. But yeah, I slowly worked out that I was more interested in the people and the weird characters that were hanging around kind of on the periphery of that scene. That's largely how I got into quote unquote art more broadly, was because there's all the events and artists that hang around the surf community. There's all the nighttime parties and warehouse parties and stuff that go along with that sort of traveling circus that I was following for a bit. So that kind of did that. And then, yeah, I get like some of my early influences as well were kind of a bit broader, even though they were like attached to things. So like people like Thomas Campbell, and Ed Templeton. Ed Templeton was a pro skater for Toy Machine, but also like is an amazing photographer. But a lot of alternative stuff and portraiture around the periphery of skateboarding, and he's kind of really moved into a really fine art space in recent years as well. So that stuff was kind of there on the sides, and it was just sort of about trying to work out a path to it, I guess.
Was there a light bulb moment for you when you suddenly decided, oh my God, this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, no, yes. I tried to quit a few times. Tried to quit being a photographer a couple of times and then just got dragged back into it. So I just took that as a sign more so than anything.
It is
Uh,
addictive, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, and I like yeah, I tried to give it up when we moved over to Canada for a few years, and I sort of, other than personal travel stuff, I kind of put the camera down for a bit. But then I was working in this fine dining restaurant there, and someone walked in and basically was like, "We heard you take photos. We need photos of this thing." And ended up documenting a bunch of big mural projects with artists
Oh, wow.
that were done all through the province. But yeah, so there wasn't really like a light bulb moment. It was more just like I tried to quit and do other things a few times and just sort of got sucked back into taking photos and was like, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. Whatever job and however I've got to make money around that will suffice so long as I can keep shooting.
Yeah, yeah. Because it gets a bit that way, doesn't it? Having a job to support the photography. I remember those days too. And now I have a job to support the podcast.
Yeah, look, it never ends. Like, yeah. And look, it makes working whatever form of work you end up doing makes that much easier because you know it's serving this other purpose. That's the thing you actually want to do. And
Yeah,
probably will never pay the bills because there's not a lot of money in those specific purposes
that's
sometimes.
right.
But yeah, you can re-divert it out.
I think one of the beautiful things with the portraiture that you do, one little observation, it's probably something that you've been told before. I really, from a female perspective, I love how the portraiture you do with women is very strong. Like these are really, they look like very strong personalities, and I love that vibrancy. But I also like with a lot of the photographs I see that you've taken of men, and some of these pictures are obviously nude as well, which are quite beautiful to look at, appreciating the human form. There's a real sincerity with the pictures of the men, and it seems to be a real softness that you're capturing. I understand you're interested in gender and gender fluidity and capturing those elements of people's personalities and basically getting down to the essence of a person. Is this something you're thinking about prior to the shoot, or is this just how it evolves?
Yeah, like the shoots are usually really intuitive and conversational, and like the
Mhm.
least amount of structure I can possibly have where needed. But like honestly, I think a lot of it comes from the pre-work and all the passive sort of thinking and learning around that. I really quickly became quite conscious of that power imbalance when you're the photographer taking photos of a subject, especially being a male presenting photographer taking photos of females. And so I became really conscious of that really quickly and started trying to just inform myself around what those dynamics were and how you can navigate them, and how you can give back power to the people you're working with, and make
Mhm.
that more of a collaborative process. So that's more where a lot of that comes in. And then the shoots is
Yeah.
usually just the shoots. Like sounds silly, but it's all that other work that I think is really important that you come into it with and you're able to then be intuitive and listen and hold space. But yeah, really like considering like just avoiding cliche, trashy camera angles from like your FHMs and your Zoom mags and kind of coming through from a more DIY, almost anti-photography sense.
Tell us a little bit about the DIY aesthetic, because you did actually have an exhibition at Noosa Regional Gallery, which was all portraits around your theme of the DIY aesthetic. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah. So for me, it's really about things that are accessible and self-built generally by more than just myself. So it's less about that really high polished, high-end studio, 10 grand a day budget to get the big fan blowing and the fully lit four-way and day team with a makeup artist. It's really it's making do with materials that are really accessible and
Yeah.
being open with how you've done that. So like for a while there, I was obsessed with using tarps as studio backdrops. Because you just go to Bunnings and you can get a tarp for $30
Oh,
and it's the size of a studio backdrop. And it also like doesn't make a mess. You can take it camping. It creates a real aesthetic when you're looking at the photo because basically being self-taught, a lot of my time was spent looking at photos and trying to sort of like interrogate them and work out how they were taken. When it was surfing, remember looking at a lot of surf photography photos and they had this really nice sand foreground that was blurred out. And like that was then turned into me at the beach digging a trench to lay in so I could get the sand to foreground the way I wanted it to then shoot the surfing. So that approach just continued. And so it's like, what's the $50 version of the $10,000 shoot that I really want to have a go at and play with? What's this really accessible version that hopefully anyone looking at it can then be like, yeah, sick, I could go to Bunnings and get a tarp and shoot. That open source and shared knowledge way of working and trying to
yeah.
encourage others to shoot their own communities and their own circles and relationships. Like you can just go get a lamp and a tarp and you can have a studio shoot with your buddies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's really um, liberating to be able to think outside of the square. A lot of people think they can't do things because, well, I can't afford that $10,000 camera, or, I'm not going to do this because I can't buy the latest lens. Think that's something that's important, especially for emerging photographers and for people who are interested in getting into photography, because obviously the cost is something that people think is prohibitive, but really it's not. You started with little Instamatic cameras that your mum
Yeah.
gave you. And you know what? So did I.
And honestly, the camera I'm most excited about at the minute is I bought it for my 4-year-old daughter. It's this like unicorn thing from Kmart that prints out on receipt paper rolls. And I bought it for
Awesome.
Patty for her birthday, and she was taking photos. And then I pinched it and was taking photos. And I was like, I think I need. So I've got my own pink fluoro unicorn camera that I've been taking to events and taking portraits. Just the whole experience of it is really fun. Like it's this toy, like especially when it's kind of casual at events. And hey, can I take your photo with this stupid camera? And people, instead of me pulling out the big Canon and they're
Yeah.
like how do I look? They don't care. They're like, what is this obscure thing? And then yeah, it prints out in front of them on this little noisy receipt paper printer, and you can just give it to them. It's
Very
so fun.
warm.
Yeah, I'm carrying it around with me all everywhere at the minute, and it's so silly, and I'm so excited by it.
Have you ever tried Wokers and Holgers?
Yeah,
Little plastic cameras?
I had one of the like not a Holga, but I had the I think Lomo did the
Yeah.
sardine can cameras for a while
Cute.
there. Yeah, and they were
Yeah.
literally like in repurposed sardine cans and with a little
Yeah.
pinhole camera and yeah. So that yeah, there was that spate of stuff. But yeah, yeah, very much like digital with the couple of like toy cameras now. Like I still love using my Polaroid like 100.
Yeah.
So it's that and then a couple of little toy cameras, which is also it's like really fun on shoots to break it up, especially if you feel like the person you're working with is getting a bit nervous or a bit in their head, bringing out the toy cameras is always pretty fun as well.
So you studied journalism, and I find that quite interesting for someone working as a photographer and working with people because journalism is certainly something that involves obviously being hyper aware, especially around people. If you're needing to research and obtain information, you really need to be someone who works well with people. Has that experience in studying journalism, has that really helped in the work that you do as a photographer?
Yeah, it's definitely part of that pre-work and just being really aware of the world you're in. If you do have some sort of a platform and you're photographing people, whether they're like the most milquetoast white cis men and they're sweet, or there's someone who is on the fringes of culture in a minority group. Being really aware of the world you're in from a day-to-day perspective is
Yeah.
kind of your responsibility once you're taking their image and then presenting it elsewhere. It's like those socio-political conversations move so fast, especially
Mm.
since 2020. Those conversations move on a day-to-day basis. And if
Yeah.
you're not aware of where the conversation's at, you're not going to approach that photo or represent it in a way that honors the people you're working with or honors the broader socio-political conversation of the day. And you really just run the risk of tossing someone under the bus for being who they are, all in the pursuit of a good photo. Occasionally I get to tutor at Uni SC with Trisha. And I talk about this a little bit with them. One of the ones I bring up is this protest image I got outside of Central Station in Brisbane. And it was during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020 in June. And there was sort of
Yeah.
all these bigger conversations at the time happening around documenting protest actions and how important it is so it doesn't get lost and swept away through just the media cycle, but also how do you protect the identities of people engaging in protests, especially with all the COVID rules at the time. All
Yeah.
those people could have probably got in trouble for being in a group together during lockdowns.
Yeah.
So having that knowledge and going into documenting a thing like a protest means you're thinking about it when you're composing your photos or you're doing your final edits and working out which ones to then present and share. And I think it actually like it really benefits the work because it's like it's of a time, it's really respectful, but then it can also be more broadly shared as well. Yeah, I got this really great image of they basically a group of First Nations activists did a smoking ceremony right there in the middle, like in that intersection in front of Central Station, and
Wow.
it
Yeah.
nearly looks like a festival image. Like there's all the smoke, there's like just a sea of people in the background, but you can kind of just see the city buildings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I approached that photo using the sun to silhouette everyone's identity, and so using that broader socio-political conversation of information to be like, okay, cool, how am I going to compose photos with some of that in mind?
That's actually a really important point that you've brought up. I have seen some of the images you've shared when you've been at pro Palestine rallies, and some of those I mean, those are really highly evocative images. Very high contrast. Something that comes naturally to you is how to manipulate the reader's eye. And when I say manipulate the reader's eye, I'm not saying that in a negative way, but there is a way that when we're shooting, and it goes back to the basics of drawing and painting as well as photography, of placement and capturing lines and positioning objects and utilizing your range and your depth of field to basically create a pathway for the reader when they're looking at the image. And that's something that I think you have innately a very strong ability. Did you do art as a child? Like, I find it interesting you said you're self-taught. So I think it's very
No.
interesting that that's something that obviously comes naturally to you.
No, I didn't do a lot of art as a kid,
Yeah.
and like I didn't get along with a lot of my art teachers in high school, so I never really thought that world was for me. There's just lots of arguments and getting told to go sit outside. But I like, yeah, I've always been obsessed with media in a way. So a lot of that when I was younger, obviously, was like surf and skate mags,
Yeah.
and then started to broaden out into, and just through that lens, broadening into more culture mags. And then fell into being obsessed with like that whole Beat Generation and like, that Patti Smith crew. I cannot remember the name of the building they all lived in. The Chelsea, was it the Chelsea?
Chelsea, do you know something? I've actually been there.
Oh, that. So I was spent a lot of time on the west coast of the US, and the,
I walked past. When I say I've been there, I walked past.
yeah, I wanted to go look at that basically. I was like, is it worth flying across the entire continental US to go look at one building? And I'm like, probably not. So yeah, it was kind of through those lenses that it started to broaden. But I think I just like I've always just consumed a lot of media, so I think that that visual literacy and that notion of framing and composition to tell stories just kind of got bashed into my brain through osmosis.
Yeah,
And similar, like I watch so many movies. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I'll pretty much watch a movie or two every night while I'm editing
yeah.
or like chilling. So it's just, I think it's that osmosis and just yeah, obsessively buying magazines from when I was like 12 till now. I continue to buy books and mags, which I shouldn't, but
Yeah, I mean, look, imagery, storytelling, it's such a powerful thing for sharing stories, obviously, but for helping people to understand things that maybe aren't familiar to them, which obviously a lot of that comes out in the people that become your subjects. How do you come across a lot of your subjects? I understand a lot of them are people that you know. Do you prefer to work with people that you know?
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Very, especially now, very rarely I'll like just immediately say yes to working with someone I don't know or hadn't met before.
Mhm.
And if I do, I generally at the bare minimum, like let's jump on the phone or get coffee first. Because again, it's that pre-work that makes the shoot work really
Yeah.
well. But yeah, generally it's just meeting people out and about. I go to a lot of stuff. I like being engaged in the communities and stuff. I photograph. So like it's yeah, earlier that was going to surf events and following that weird pseudo pro surfing festival tour that runs up and down the east coast of Australia, sort of every March through to May, June, and just it drive my
Yeah.
van from here down to Sydney and then be done for the year. People just know I'm the guy that takes photos, so eventually the conversation strikes up. I don't generally um approach people first, but unless there's a conversation already kind of happening, and I'm like, hey, would you really love to take a photo? Or it's sort of through building collaboration where I'm wanting to work with like specific artists, and then we're finding someone to work with as a model or subject. But yeah, largely it's people I know, and 9 times out of 10 I end up friends with them because I like shooting with people for a long, like over years. So usually end up mates,
Yeah.
which is pretty great.
That's really lovely. It's interesting, and you're talking about obviously you're very much a community minded person and you like to be amongst people and working with people. And as you said, becoming friends with these people that you collaborate. It brings me to think of, well, I think we should talk about Lantana. It's quite inspiring. I'm going to let you introduce Lantana.
Yeah. So it was co-founded in 2021 with myself, my partner John Burnett, Ebony Busk, and Cohen Keaty. Basically, we all needed studio space, and there wasn't really any, and we figured it would be cheaper to split a warehouse space and manage to have studios that way. But that was like the first 10-minute bit of the conversation, and then
Yeah.
very quickly, just by the nature of the four of us, tend into like, well, we could have studio space, but also we want to do all these other things. And instead of asking permission to do them, let's just rent a shed and do it ourselves. And then hopefully from there, something builds out of it and some community starts to gather around it. So that was 2021. We took over a shed in Moffat Beach, which had been a surfboard factory since at least the late 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of by chance. Just being engaged with your community, word got out that the four of us were looking for a shed. One of my mates who took over the surfboard factory that was in that shed, he had to retire because he threw his back out pretty bad. Just texted me randomly one day. He's like, "I heard you're looking for a shed." And yeah, so then we just took it over basically because it was affordable. It was in a really great location. Those early surfboard shapers I worked with when I started my career, they had a shed just up the road. So it kind of felt like all the signs were pointing in the right direction. And I'm like, oh, I'm back on the street where it all started. Um, which felt really nice.
Yeah. And so now you've gone from this surf culture, which was the first community you were really working deeply with, into creating a space that's available for other people, for other creatives to show their work, but also to help produce their work. You're creating pathways for people to achieve without having the barriers. I think that's a great form of perception, perceiving barriers and being able to break them down and show people that actually you can do this because look, we've just created this for you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
important for people to be part of their community, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and like I've constantly joked since we've had it. I'm like, anyone can rent a shed. Like it's crazy how much legitimacy renting a shed and calling it an art
Yeah.
space gives you. Um, I think is that like sharing. People don't have to repeat all the mistakes I made when I was learning to hang my own work. Like I think one of the first times I exhibited my work, photography in this cafe in Caloundra actually, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you can just hang the work here," and it was this concrete wall, and I've just gone in there and full of hubris and arrogance, just like drilled these giant holes into their concrete wall and one of my
Oh no.
photos
Oh,
because they were just like, yeah, do what you need to do. I had my little picture from Bunnings and went in and was like, well, this isn't gonna work. Like, yeah, going back to the share house I was living in, I was just like, yeah, can I borrow the drill? So yeah, took this big impact drill down, just put these big dirty holes. And they didn't know until the pictures came down. They're just like, what the fuck have you done to our wall? Words were spoken. It was fine. They were chill, but they were just like, what the fuck, dude?
it was almost like you were guaranteeing yourself a second exhibition.
All the exact same layout.
Yeah.
Just reuse the frames. Yeah,
Warwick, that's hilarious.
yeah, yeah. So look, I've just failed forward basically a lot of the time, and a lot of
Yeah.
apologize later. It's been a lot of that.
I once hung an exhibition using those tape stick.
Yeah,
I thought I was being really clever at the time, but of course they didn't stay hanging up.
yeah. They either fall down or when you take them off, just the big line of paint comes down with them.
Yeah, it's like blue tack. I mean, you just stay away from that stuff. It's gonna just
Yeah,
rip half your wall off with it.
yeah, yeah. But yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's not really a course for this stuff. Well, not one that I'm
no,
aware of, anyways. So it's nice to be able to have this space to be able to share this information, help people hang their first shows.
yeah. I mean, interesting you say that because I actually did study photography. I thought that when
Yeah.
I went overseas that I needed a piece of paper to get a job. And no, we were not taught how to hang an exhibition. And in fact, there was no education at the time around running a business as a photographer. It was really just how to light an object, which came in very handy for me when I was working as a product photographer. But yeah, you're right. There aren't practical ways for people to understand how to approach situations such as hanging an exhibition or even getting an exhibition. What's advice that you would offer to somebody who's perhaps trying to navigate or understand that area of the arts industry?
In terms of getting an exhibition, good luck. Tenacity. I think it's about being really firm in but not firm's the wrong word, being really grounded in your own work and how you communicate it. And just don't be afraid of just saying things out into the ether. But again, it just comes back to that being really engaged with your community and talk about what you do or when people ask, share that really honestly. Like it doesn't have to come from this braggy place. You should be proud of the work you
Mm.
make and be really open to how that lands and just trust that process, I guess, in terms of getting your work exhibited. The other option is always just, yeah, rent a shed or
Yeah.
jump in on group shows as well. Like Brisbane is amazing for it with its independent art scene. Like there is obviously ebbs and flows depending on who's really got energy down there, but There's always little group shows that you could just really easily submit little bits of work for. I still do it quite regularly, partly because it helps me resolve new bits of my work when I'm wanting to exhibit things. I struggle to really work that out just in a studio sense or in an abstract way. It's like the second I've put it in a space with other works and people moving past it, I'm like, I know what that is now and I know what I need to do. So yeah, engaging and contributing back to that community in that way. And but also just ask questions. When I first started shooting surf photography, I was just so brazen about sending shitty little surf photos to surf photographers that I liked, being like, "Do you have any tips?" And I remember when I'm sure they just rolled their fucking eyes over when they got my email with my photos because they were just like, "Straighten your horizons, mate." Like all my horizons would have just been like this,
I-
and I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, good point, noted."
that was a trend at one point, wasn't it? Tilting the
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It comes back. I feel like every 2 years that little like earthquake photo comes back. It's like,
Yeah. Actually,
yeah.
one of the trends that I couldn't stand in the early dozens, the whole let's stand in front of the camera on our wedding day, just married, looking like we've just about to be shot. I could never understand that trend.
Yeah.
You know those
Yeah, yeah.
pictures
Almost
with the
like
people
American
just
Gothic.
standing there
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
totally like American Gods, just without the pitchfork.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there probably would be somebody out there who had the pitchfork. Jonas Peterson was the first photographer to do that. And when he did it, it made sense. I remember looking at the pictures and thinking, well, those are really beautiful. And then every man and his dog copied him.
Yeah.
What are some of the trends that you've seen in photography that you just are totally against? Are there any?
I mean
Because I
the
bet you've
one at
seen a
the minute
few.
that's yeah. The thing I see more is like is people and I love the enthusiasm, but seeing photographers pop up and kind of within like a month of getting their camera, they're already doing booked mini sessions down at the beach. And look, and a lot of the time they are taking a few interesting photos and stuff, and it's cool, but they pop up, they burst up, they do all these really cheap mini sessions for everyone and anyone who'll let them, and then they're gone again because doing those straight book sessions to try and make money, it just doesn't ever scale.
Amongst my photographer friends, there's this little law we've always abided by. You don't make money off people when you're trying to learn something.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of disasters back when I was photographing weddings, which was 40% of my business at the time. I photographed a lot of post-wedding reshoots. It's heartbreaking when you see a couple come in and their memory feels ruined because they had bad photos. And it always comes back to that person who just got given a camera for their birthday and decided, well, I'm a photographer now, I'm going to go and charge lots of money
Yeah.
because I hear you can make lots of money. As a photographer, I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think that's actually probably one of the worst things that happens in the industry. And I think that's because our industry has been unregulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you reckon about that? Do you think it should be regulated?
Like it's so tricky. It is a cowboy industry, and I do think like it's funny. Photography's always been on the verge of ending. Like every new technology, this is the end of photography. That's just been photography's story forever. It's always been about to end and finish, and then sort of
Mm.
bounces back stronger and bigger than ever. And doesn't necessarily mean the budgets come back though. But yeah, and I think yeah, definitely with weddings, you're more than just a photographer. You are the conductor of the day, which I think so many baby photographers don't grasp that as well. Even if they've picked it up amazingly quick and they're technically great and their photos are good, if you don't have that like sense that, oh no, I'm actually responsible for basically keeping time and getting everyone where they need to be when they need to be there so I can get good photos, you're not going to get the good photos. So it's also like
Yeah.
you're shortcutting through all those people skills, all that organizational skills, understanding of
Mm.
you are responsible for how their memories land from the day as well. It's all
Mm.
that stuff beyond just lighting the photo and capturing the photo and posing it. It's you can be the best of that, but generally with a wedding you're working with natural light or you've got a minute or two to set up. If you aren't aware of the pace of a day like that, then you're just going to miss the shots and miss the good light and not get good photos.
Yeah, 100%.
People are always going to want to bargain as well. You could tell
Mm.
every prospective couple that message and they'll still hire their friend or their niece that got the camera. No,
I
you're right.
love the couple photos you've taken. There's some beautiful photos of you with your partner. How do you approach couple shoots? Is it that people have come to you wanting to have a couple shoot? Because I mean, you're capturing people in very vulnerable scenarios,
Yeah.
and they're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, like get the odd, yeah, get the odd person coming to me for a couple shoot, and again, it kind of goes through that sort of similar process. If it's just an individual, to jump on the phone
Mhm.
with them first, and generally get a sense of why they're asking me to take their photo of all people, why they're not
Mhm.
doing the standard couple shoot down the beach at sunset, because that really helps me as well if it's sort of coming
Yeah.
from left of center. It's like, why me? What do we want here? So that like that bit's really important. A lot of them are like it's friends who've been in relationships for a long time. I've been doing less of that. I feel like I'm nearly cursed. I take photos of friends that are in relationships, and then 6 months later they split, and I can't use the photos.
Oh
So
no.
not all the time, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it is one of those ones I'm more inclined to take a booking on because I can't generally use those photos forever. I think people's relationships to their image, especially if it's with
Mhm.
a former partner, that shifts over time. So there is always this check-in point where I'm like, if I'm going to exhibit work or share work that was taken a few years ago, there is always this check-in again as well to see if the person's still comfortable with it because I'm not always in constant dialogue with those.
Okay.
I do check in with them again. Like, hey, I'm gonna share this again. You still cool with it? You like because yeah, our relationship with our bodies, our relationships with our family and work situations, they change, and all those little bits impact how you might feel. And yeah, similar with the couples
Yeah.
photos. So that is why I'm more open to a booking on those ones because it is usually very much
Yeah.
for them in that moment. And I won't
Yeah.
generally use them beyond that unless yeah, unless they're still happy and together.
I think that's lovely that you check in with your subjects, even years later when you're curating, because that is something that you're doing a bit more of now too, curating. And you've got an exhibition that you've been working on that's opening very, very soon,
Very
called
soon.
Refuse, where you've got your curator hat on for that exhibition.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the process of how you've now come to curating? And
Yeah.
also about the exhibition too.
Yeah, like it's curating something I've always been interested in. And yeah, when I was studying journalism, me and some buddies did this sort of really terrible culture mag. It was basically a blatant rip-off of Monster Children. And it was really like an excuse to have a big party with a bunch of friends who were creative or artists or were sort of sifting in and out of that skate surf world. The mag was really just an excuse to get a bunch of people in a room together and be like, look at all this amazing stuff everyone's doing that's like just doesn't leave their bedroom or their garage, but is as good as anything else happening anywhere. Especially being in this little regional town that definitely used to get overlooked a lot more, but still does. In terms of, this show's been kind of wild to curate because I've been quite nostalgic because it's based a lot around me running around skateboarding and taking photos early as well. Like I didn't shoot skating that much. I kind of dipped over to surfing pretty quickly, but it
Mhm.
was one of those places where I kind of started and had buddies come up through that world more so. So I've been diving back into that and reconnecting with a bunch of those artists that I knew through running that mag, which when we stopped after our reissue run, others started up their own mags that were kind of more specific.
Mhm.
And I ended up more contributing to their projects in that time. But it's been wild reaching out and reconnecting with some people I hadn't talked to for like 15 years or whatever. And then also reaching out to some people I kind of just missed, but was adjacent to and aware of their work and vice versa. But yeah, I think there's six skate photographers, artists whose work I've pulled together from largely Southeast Queensland DIY skate scene, kind of around that 2011 period through to I think the most recent work's like 2019. But yeah, very much looking at this sort of snapshot of DIY skate culture and this idea of skateboarding and skaters as like a pioneer species creating third spaces.
Yeah. And so the exhibition is due to open on the 13th of December at Noosa Regional Gallery. Refuse. It's one of three
Yeah.
exhibitions that will be opening. Is this the first exhibition you've curated?
Yeah, I've curated others. Yeah, this
Yeah. Well,
the one I did a few years ago for Horizon Festival with Amanda Bennett's Phototropism. I wonder what year that was,
okay.
2021 maybe.
Yeah.
So it was this
Yeah.
photography exhibition we co-curated together as part of the festival, but really exploring ambient lit or lit photography in a dark space. So we took over the black box at the Old Amber, which is a fully blacked out performance space usually, and curated in all these sculptural or lit photographic works for the period of the
Oh,
festival.
wow.
And for us, it was just looking outward and seeing all these photo festivals all across Australia. Some of the best photographers in the country come from this little corner of the country, and there's no photo festival here. So it was our way to
Yeah.
tease and play with what something like that could look like, and potentially scale it up and out of there and find a bigger space and more budget. We didn't get the budget. The exhibition, I don't want to speak for Amanda, but yeah, I was really proud of the work we curated and how we installed it. We were really particular about the installation and the sort of rationale behind it. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is definitely a very different exhibition. While it is a photography exhibition, the photography is part of like bigger conversation around space and community and how we interact with it and who is it accessible for and when is it
Mm.
accessible and when is it safe and when is it for fun and pleasure as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about reclaiming place. And I like that ideology behind this exhibition. So, like with the surf culture and obviously the skateboard culture, I didn't realize skateboarding was so much about reclaiming place. I just saw it as people having fun on a board, but it seems to be a lot deeper than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's very much this drive for like space that is kind of at the center of skateboarding, and and how it's really created as well. Like kind of the research for this, which was kind of a side quest for me, like, going through all these like mind weird blogs through that have these sort of vague catalogs of all the DIY spaces across so-called Australia. Like it's quite interesting and humorous in a way, but you have this random handrail out of Vinnie's in Ballarat that's on there, and it just says handrail Ballarat and where you can go skate it. And it's something so beautiful that someone's taken the time to like, take this photo of the handrail, put it up on this website. Like that's an important
Uh,
little space for them that everybody else would just walk past. Someone's got
yeah.
some real memories and connection to this random little handrail at a Vinnie's in Ballarat. And there's something really beautiful and creative about that. And I know from when I was younger, trying to scour and work out where random skate spots were, or even more when working in the surf world, you're seeing surf photography from a random hidden wave on the East Coast, and it's like, well, where the fuck is it? And everyone's putting their little detective hat on and trying to work out where this spot is. It's getting all this swell, and there's this kind of protective nature of it, even though it's just another beach, and most people actually know where the beach is. But similar to the rail or these DIY skate spots, it's like they end up kind of protective, even though some of them are in the middle of Brisbane CBD, but they're these like poorly kept secrets because they don't want too many people skating it because then they'll put skate stocks everywhere and security will be there. And King George Square is kind of a interesting example in Brisbane there. I think it's a $500 fine for anyone caught skating it, like just on the spot, 500 bucks. But
Hey,
that whole square is designed as like public space. That's why they put squares in front of
yeah.
town halls. Like they are designed as third spaces for the people.
And
And also,
recreational.
yeah, you can't tell the people how to use their third space.
Yeah.
The irony of that place is it's just like a skateboarder's heaven. It's these perfect little pavers that make that lovely little noise when you skate over them. There's all these perfect little ledges and little
Yeah.
stairs, and it's 1,000 degrees. So who's really sitting there in the middle of the day? Yeah, when you ban skaters, you generally end up with these dead areas. Skaters do tend to bring life
Mm.
into these pockets of space, and when you remove the skateboarders from those spaces, they usually end up just completely barren of people or just like a really occasional thoroughfare at most is what they're used for. But yeah, they do
Mm.
tend to be this kind of glue in urban spaces.
And it's interesting when you're talking about how we're being told how we can use places. I'm from Melbourne, and there was a time when Melbourne City Council decided to make public chairs, unusable for people to sleep on. You've probably seen that too. There's these little rivets of metal that have been positioned just that way to make a space a little bit uncomfortable, which is actually really disturbing. I find it very disturbing
Yeah.
that, especially when we look at our society, there are people who are homeless and there are people. Well, look, what if someone who wasn't homeless wanted to take an afternoon nap on a nice day
Yeah.
under a
Yeah. Or
tree
just like
on a chair? I mean,
have a
why?
comfy
Why are
chair.
we being told how to use a chair?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And when you see it, you just see that that infrastructure just generally doesn't get used then. So you just see chairs
yeah.
that are designed to be uncomfortable and you see people standing around next to them instead of using them. Like it's not serving anybody.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love that that skating community is reclaiming those. I think I'm very excited about this exhibition, by the way, Warwick. I think it's going to be absolutely fascinating. The image that's being used at the moment for the promotion, which is on the Noosa Regional Gallery website, is a really cool Polaroid. Is that one of yours?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought it encapsulated it's not nostalgia driven, but yeah, that kind of
yeah,
DIY sense. And there is a lens of nostalgia to this sort of concept of reclaiming space and how spaces are used. And I think also like how temporary that is as well. The
mm,
use of space changes and is always in flux. So like what might be a paradise for skaters for a year or so at best, generally then gets co-opted and others use it for different purposes. And that's all part of the cycle. Like that
mm,
sort of more ephemeral nature of it is really nice. I cannot remember who's in the photo though, which has
yeah,
been bugging me. But that was the secret spot that we all kind of eventually found slash got told about, this
yeah,
DIY spot. And it's a wall, you can vaguely make it out in the picture, but it's like a makeshift wall of plywood that goes up a fence on a drain causeway, and it's someone doing a big berk slide on their
yeah.
skateboards.
Cool. I like that it's also because of time, it's undergone that little bit of a color shift too, which was something that I always enjoyed in film photography, creating color shift with film. I understand that you primarily work in digital. Do you have a
Yeah.
preference for digital for any particular reason or
Just like the speed, basically, like the process and the interaction of sh the people I'm working with when shooting, that's sort of
yeah,
paramount to my work. So I feel film can get in the way of that a little bit. Like I don't know if I could work the way I do, kind of constrained to like a roll of 36 and having to like be that bit more conscious.
yeah,
Like a thing I'll do a lot, especially with the digital camera, you can kind of fire away and chat and just dump those photos. But what you're doing is you're getting the person you're working with to get really used to that sound and presence of the camera between yourself and them to the point where they can start
yeah,
ignoring it, hopefully. And then you can just gently, as you're talking, be like, actually hold that, hold that. Let's do that. And so you can get that sort of candid, like it's a Forks candid way of shooting. Here's the camera, look at all the noise it makes while you're chatting. And not and kind of just burning those first sort of like 100 photos. If I did that with film, it'd
yeah,
be a nightmare and I wouldn't be able to afford to eat. But yeah, yeah. Like I really don't like shooting the mirrorless cameras. I think it's my first old man moment. I don't like how light they are. They don't make a noise really. All the
mm,
mechanics of a digital SLR I do really enjoy, like the size and the weight and the way they do take up space. I think you can kind of build trust with that more as well. Like it's making a noise. The person you're working with knows when their photo is being taken. Whereas the mirrorless, that interaction isn't as passive. They're not going to be as aware that you're taking a photo because it's not making the shutter noise.
yeah,
So you're not going to get them engaging with it with all their senses, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
then yeah, I take photos of my like family and friends with my film camera largely.
yeah,
It's the camera I've got slung when I'm just hanging out with buddies or my family. So it's this kind of like dual relationship.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the film's more your personal because you've got
yeah,
time with that.
yeah,
You can be slow with that process. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's amazing the gems you find on a film camera too. When you are taking time to work through a roll of film. I can remember having a roll of film in the one camera for weeks and weeks,
Yeah.
and then you finally get it processed and it's like, wow,
Yeah, yeah. I'm like
I
they all
remember
just go
that.
into a drawer
Yeah,
when I finish them. So I've got such a backlog. I just take a couple down to your local film lab in Brisbane.
yeah,
Little shout out because they do all my film stuff. But I never know what role I'm bringing them. I
yeah.
don't label the roles properly, or maybe should, but they're just going to draw and I just grab two out. I'm like, hey, I'm going into the city. I'll grab a couple of roles. So it's like, which are these ones from? I don't know. I know it's on them.
I've still got 120 film from 20 years ago that
Yeah.
I haven't processed yet. It's like I really wonder what's on those films.
I generally
Yeah.
shoot like just the Portra 400 because that's just I just love the skin tones in it.
Kodak's bringing back a lot of their old films I was reading recently, and I believe Ilford is as well. They're bringing back a couple of their more well-known films.
I'll run the 3200 Ilford sometimes, but it's so tricky trying to because I've only got the one film camera at the minute. Just burn through the portrait and load it up for a specific
Yeah.
thing at night. But yeah, I do love that Ilford 3200 black and white. I think you can still
Lovely
get it pretty
chunky
easy.
grain.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to mainly work with the 800 rolls of 800 or 400, and I'd either push or pull. but I was working as a photojournalist at the time.
Yeah.
So that's all we were given, mainly Fuji, because that's what the newspapers handed out, which came in handy when I was putting together my own personal portfolio. I
Yeah.
should
Well, I
probably
think
keep that quiet, all those rolls of film I got for free.
yeah, I had a magazine assignment and I had to go shoot Dick Van Stralen, who's this I think he's retired now, but quite renowned surfboard shaper based in Burleigh.
Okay.
Used to shape or still does shape all of Dave Rasovich's boards for the most part. But yeah, quite iconic surfboard shaper. And I got an assignment to go spend the day with him and get some portraits of him in his factory and stuff. And they wanted it specifically on film, so I was like, well, you better send me some film. Like they sent me so much film, like it
Oh,
was out of
nice.
control. Me being young and poor, I was just like, well, I'm gonna shoot this on one roll and make sure every shot's a banger and then keep the rest. And it was great because like I didn't buy film for years.
Oh,
They literally sent me like 30, 40 rolls and I was primarily shooting digital. It was kind of silly. I was like, what? Like I didn't mention I submitted the photos. They ran them
yeah.
in the mag and I just kept my bag of film they sent.
How lovely.
Yeah. It's like, yep, sweet, that'll do.
So with all these different hats that you wear, Warwick, you also work in creative development in local council as well. All these different hats that you're wearing, have you got a favorite?
No, like I like being able to jump around. Like I usually, bored's not the right word. I need time away from things. So
Yeah.
having six things on the go at once means I don't run into that problem. But it is all really similar. I try to approach all of it with a really similar set of ethics and ways of working. A lot of the work, whether it's in creative development through Central Coast Council or at Lantana or in my photography practice, it is about sort of trying to decenter myself and be of service and work within and for community that I'm a part of. So
Yeah.
that ethos tries to carry through varying degrees of success depending on other pressures and stuff as well. And navigating local government is its own thing too. So you've got to shift and adapt that obviously. But yeah, it is changes a lot, but it is all pretty rewarding and a very similar way of working. It's been great to be able to jump around. Like I'm really quite privileged to be able to wear different hats and run around in
Yeah.
this way.
And they all, as you said, they all feed off each other and into each other. So it just helps all of your work to grow. One thing I didn't mention, actually, and we do need to mention, is some of your self portraiture. I think you're very brave. Photographers are people that like to be behind the camera, not in front. And I think it's really inspiring to meet a photographer who actually puts themselves in front of the camera too and shares their vulnerability. And that obviously is something that helps people that you're working with, whether it's your subject that you're photographing or whether it's other artists that you're helping to develop, that you're showing them that you're one of them too, that you're sharing your vulnerabilities and you're sharing your person with others. Is that something that you think you're going to continue exploring?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm a big believer in not having someone do something you wouldn't be comfortable doing yourself.
Yeah.
So like I think that's really important. And like yeah, the self-portraiture kind of started out of in part necessity when I was living overseas and traveling and not having people to work with because I'm not connected to community. I'm just passing through. So like, the
Yeah.
self-portraiture kind of started to take root a little bit there and worked on it quietly for a few years before sharing it. Similarly, I just get really bored with landscape photography. I'm like, where's the people? Person there would be fun. But yeah, definitely something I want to continue. And in terms of like exhibiting work, I've become more comfortable exhibiting work that features myself, especially as I'm trying to dig into more ideas around representation and identity and touching on the current tech work culture we're
Mhm.
tiptoeing around as well. I think it's great to use my own body as a tool to have those kind of pokier, riskier conversations. And
Yeah.
I refer to it as like throwing myself under the bus instead of somebody else. Yeah, I feel really comfortable just being like, yeah, this is the thing I want to talk about, and here's my body to do it. And I'm less concerned or protective of how that's responded to. Whereas if the work features someone else, then I have this like responsibility and a lot more needs to happen there for those conversations.
Yeah. The Victor lawnmower one's my personal favorite. I think I've told you that before. I absolutely love it. And I recommend everybody listening to this to go to Warwick's Instagram page and check out not just that self portrait, but all of Warwick's work, which you can see at Warwick Gow Photo. So that's the handle for Instagram, which is, I'll spell it out, UARWICK GOWPHOTO. Warwick, you said you couldn't walk in the boots.
No,
I'd love to see you trying to mow the lawn with that.
it would not work. It wouldn't. Nah. I like it's such a silly work, but it was me trying to explore what it means to be a dad and be all of me and be engaged with the communities and people I work with all the time. So it's just like very humorous, silly take on all of that, which yeah, I think it's important to be silly as well.
It is because you're having fun.
Yeah,
And look, that's what art's all about. It's exploring ideas, it's a testing ground. Some things work, some things don't. But ultimately, it's just about having fun, isn't it?
yeah. If you're not having fun, then prob like just don't do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No one's getting enough money to not be enjoying this line of work or way of living. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think trying to keep it as enjoyable and fun as possible, and that can take many forms as well. Like I know some people make really heavy work that's based in a lot of trauma and stuff like that, but there is taking joy out of making work and expressing yourself. You got to keep coming back to that, or you're gonna burn out and crash out and be done as well.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Warwick's work can also be seen at his website, which is warwickgow.com. And he has a new exhibition which is opening at Noosa Regional Gallery on the 13th of December, which he has curated, but also is a exhibiting photographer called Refuse. Warwick, is there anything else coming up that you'd like to share?
I don't think so. I got objection letters for some things I put in
Oh,
for next year. Just keep throwing them in. It's fine. Um, Probably a blessing because it's probably going to be busy next year. Anyways, I just have a feeling. I'm waiting to hear back about some other grants that have been put in. So I'll leave that for now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to having a couple of weeks off over summer. It's been really great the last few months digging back into my practice. So really excited to just continue back on that ground level of my practice a bit and make time for that work again. Be nice to just make and hide in the studio and run around in some nice places and take photos.
I can't wait to see more on your Instagram page. You'll
Yeah.
have lots of opportunities to mow the lawn, Warwick.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking with me today, Warwick. And
No
I'm really looking
worries.
forward to your exhibition and can't wait to work with you again soon at Noosa Regional Gallery. Warwick does come along to most of our openings and events, and he's a wonderful photographer who we're very lucky that we get some pretty cool photography from
Oh,
Warwick.
thank you.
I thought I'd give
It's
a
pretty
little
fun.
plug there because, that's a little bit of
Yeah.
bread and butter
It
money.
is so fun. Yeah. Oh, I'm just like,
It is
yeah,
fun.
I love being in the gallery on my own with my headphones in and some air conditioning and just get it. Yeah, it's so nice being able to just spend solo time with works like that.
Yeah.
It's a big reason I like documenting.
It's important, if from the gallery's perspective as well, it's important for us to get artists' work photographed well. It helps us not just to show the artist's work, but it helps us to share the space that we have and how our fantastic director, Michael Brennan, how he's able to actually reimagine that space constantly.
Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me. And you do such a wonderful job of documenting that. So thank you. We always appreciate working with you, Warwick. And I'm sure it's going to be interesting to see if you're going to be photographing your exhibition opening.
Yeah. I'll probably document it at least.
Yes, of course. And we'll have someone else photograph you enjoying yourself at your opening because you're definitely going to be worthy of a glass of champagne or two that night.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. And yeah. Yeah, I keep looking at the ground. I should just like show you why I keep looking at the ground when we're talking about the show.
Oh,
So I've been,
wow.
yeah, I just
You are
noticed I
very
did it.
busy today.
I was like, yeah, like that is, yeah, trying to make sense of this show and just going back analog and
Love
cutting
it.
things up and putting it on the floor. And my daughter
Oh, I
keeps
can't
coming in
wait.
and moving it around as well because she's now helping as a curator too. Yeah, she's earned $2 so far, she reckons. We'll see.
Bless a little heart.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
No,
for talking with me, Warwick.
thanks for having
And
me.
as I sort of said, everybody can follow your work either by checking out your website, warwickgow.com, or following you on Instagram, which is Warwick Gow Photo. Highly recommend you check out Warwick's work. And I will see you again soon, Warwick. Thank you.
See, such a fun time. Thank you. Bye.
See you. Bye. Did you like that episode? Rate, review, and subscribe to Talking with Creatives. I'd love to see you back here on the 1st of next month.